Hello, I'm Tracy Tucker, past president of Arkansas ASCD. We are proud to present a Power to Survive Pocket PD series. Once a month for 4 months, we're releasing one 15 to 20 minute video that's an interview of Arkansas educators. This third conversation is entitled Serving Virtual Families. It's a quick conversation with engaging virtual students about strategies and examples from Arkansas educators. The series is designed for educators to enjoy in a PLC, embedded in a faculty meeting, or even alone. The goal is to support conversations and to reflect. We hope you find the series helpful in your school. We see what you're doing. We appreciate you, Arkansas educators. You are enough. Your work matters. Serve them well.
Hi, welcome back to the Arkansas ASCD Power to Survive series. We're excited to introduce the third video, Serving Virtual Families. I'm Judy Pennington, Director of Secondary Teaching and Learning in Russellville School District.
And I'm Debbie Knowles. I am the K-12 Curriculum Administrator, and this year I am working with the Virtual Academy.
I'm Krista Malin. I'm the principal at London Elementary in the Russellville School District.
I'm Deshae Lewis, and I am a teacher at Russellville School District.
Thank you guys for being here today so we can answer questions from Arkansas educators for Arkansas educators. So we're going to just start the questions, and as you watch the video, feel free to leave comments with your opinions, share your expertise with us so we can all learn together. So our first question, how have you engaged students successfully virtually? And that's been a struggle in the whole state. So can you guys tell me some things that have worked for you in your experience?
Well, I think we're doing a lot of the same things other educators are doing. We have asynchronous and synchronous lessons. We are using a lot of new forms of technology. But what my teachers have learned throughout this whole process is it's better when we have small groups of students that we're teaching towards. Right now in our K-6 school, we're scheduling interventions, and these teachers are getting the opportunity to meet with these small groups, target their skills, and they're also starting to develop those relationships. And with the whole group lessons, those relationships were a little bit harder to develop and to build. And so what we've learned from this whole process is that relationship building, we know that that's crucial on site, but what we've learned is that's something that's very crucial with virtual learning as well.
Excellent.
That's exactly the same for us. We have found that small group learning is best. And so we've looked for ways to provide opportunities to build those relationships on-site and off-site. So some of the ways that we have done that on-site in our school family times that we have in our classroom, morning meeting, we have opportunities for those students to join in with our class. And so some of the things that we do, we go around and maybe share highs and lows, a high and a low from the day. And so as our kids that are on site sharing that, we also allow our students that are joining us virtually to be a part of that as well. If we do show and tell, then they're a part of that. And we make sure to include opportunities where we have things just for our school family. For example, so one of the ways that we support our virtual students with our entire school family is by making sure that they feel a part of that family and that we include them in activities that we do, such as at the beginning of the year, popsicles with the principal, where they drive through and they get a popsicle and we just kick off the school year. We had a drive-through trunk or treat, and we make sure to personally invite those families to be a part of our school events as well.
I would say as a high school teacher, for my students, I believe that consistency and organization is key. And so I make sure that my Google Classroom is really organized. So I organize things by dates, for example. If I'm doing multiple videos, I post my videos to YouTube so that the students can access them easier. And I might share them on a Google slide so that the students can see directions and also the videos in one place, because I feel like if the students see things in one place, it's going to be easier for them to find it, and they're going to be more encouraged to complete those assignments or to seek help in different ways like that. So I think organization really encourages the students to go forward with completing the assignments or feeling comfortable with asking if they need help and things along those lines.
So in your experiences, it sounds like you have all done asynchronous and synchronous instruction. Which one do you think have you found more successful?
Well, the synchronous lessons, I think, are the most powerful because that's where you can develop those relationships.
I'm a computer teacher, and so my lessons have always been on the computer, and so I make it to where the students can work independently by watching steps, or it's easy for them to see, where they might need to ask questions. They can send me an email. If I need to schedule it in an independent time with them to do a video chat or a Google Meet, I'm open for that as well. I think, just being flexible to what the students need really is helpful to them, and, serving them, and just letting the parents know that I'm available at any time, well, not any time, but whenever they need to, if they need to set up a Google Meet, or if they want to watch a video while I'm teaching in class, I'm flexible to, whatever the students need in order to help them.
I think it's important with our youngest learners to have that asynchronous time, not knowing the situation at home. Are they with a sitter? Is the parent working? But having those opportunities that they can still be engaged and still learn, and it's not in the traditional 8 to 3 time.
That's a great point. That we're going to get a little bit more into families and parents with another question. But before we do, what do you think has been so far your biggest challenge of virtual instruction and learning? So just try to limit that to one challenge. And have you been able to overcome it, or what steps have you taken so that you can work better with those virtual families and students?
I think at the Bologna School District, one of our biggest challenge was in our high school. Our older learners were having trouble with those executive functioning skills, with, pacing themselves in the lessons and being motivated, giving attention to the task. And so what we've done to try to overcome that is we've set up virtual labs in our high school. So students can actually come up to our school, to one of the labs. We've hired someone to oversee the lab, and they can actually work. This is also a time when our teachers can come by and drop in and make another personal connection with our students. But we've talked to parents who are working. Both parents are gone, the students are at home, and they're not there to help them. And so having this lab, we've already received a lot of comments from teachers that students are now doing their work. And so we really think it's something that has really helped our students by adding that.
One of the things that I've been telling myself since the beginning of the school year is just to keep it simple. I know how to teach, you all know how to teach, and so we're teaching, it's just in a different way. And so one of the things I wanted to make sure is that I wasn't overwhelming myself as far as trying to learn every single new thing that came out. But I would say that something that's been a challenge for me is, I want to make sure that I'm communicating with my students and families on a regular basis. So trying to keep up with lesson planning, the students in class and then the students online, and just making sure that I'm staying on top of everything and making sure that my students are okay, making sure that I'm okay. That's the most challenging thing to me. Just making sure that I'm keeping in contact, making sure my grades are always up to date. So just the time-consuming part, really. But I always say, just keep it simple. We know how to do our job. Well, hopefully we know how to do our jobs and, do it well. Just teach the students. And it doesn't have to be, we don't have to learn every single new thing that's coming out. We don't have to incorporate all those new things. The biggest thing is, are the students getting the content? Are they meeting goals, objectives? If they're doing it, if with something simple, they're meeting their goals, and you're keeping it simple, that's perfectly fine. If you're integrating new things and you're learning new things, that's awesome too. But just the time part is the biggest issue for me. It's just, focusing on trying to make sure that everybody's still in the game. That's biggest thing. And I am staying organized as far as keeping a list of my students that, okay, I've noticed they're missing a couple of assignments here. I'm noticing that they're getting close to a failing grade. So I'm keeping track of, when to contact parents, when to reach out to the students and things along those lines. That's helpful to me.
And Deshae, so the high school has implemented Virtual Friday. Can you talk a little bit about how that might have helped you with some of the time management you're talking about?
Virtual Friday has been absolutely wonderful because that is a time for me to make sure that my grades are updated, and so that I can see, the students that are missing a lot of work or the students that haven't checked in regularly. And it also provides a time for me to be able to reach out to the parents, or to strictly set up times where students can make appointments with me so that I can work with them one-on-one and just letting them know I'm available. And something that I had mentioned to you earlier was that communication is so important because even if it's not about a lesson, or even if it's not about an assignment, just making sure how are you doing today? Is there anything that you need to let me know? That way, if down the line they are missing a lot of assignments or something's going on, they feel more comfortable with talking to you and being open to that help and assistance and things along those lines. So I think communication is also very important during this time now.
Excellent. Before you go, Krista, I just want to clarify the Virtual Friday is in
our
school,
yes.
and what the students that are in school have the option of staying home so that they can work on their virtual work. They can practice what it's like to do remote learning so that if we did have to close the school for any reason, they would be comfortable. And then teachers are at school and they're helping whoever does come to school, but that gives them a chance to do everything that Deshae was describing. And it's been a success at our junior high and high school.
Absolutely wonderful. Yes, it's very helpful.
What do you think, Krista?
Well, one of our biggest challenges has actually been technology and internet. So thinking of Russellville School District, you think, oh, internet's very prominent anywhere, but for London, it's a very rural community. And yes, there might be internet, but maybe the cell coverage is spotty. Maybe the internet cuts in and out. And so we've had to be creative in ways to keep those families engaged despite internet challenges. So some of the ways that we have done that, we have offered hotspots to our families. Again, those work well if the cell coverage is good. So sometimes even the hotspots don't work. And so we have been able to download assignments onto the devices that can be accessed offline. We have used flash drives, and some families have just asked for paper, pencil, and we've provided that. And so I think it's important. It's not the method of how we provide that learning, it is the actual learning that takes place.
It sounds like flexibility is the key for any of these ideas to work. And what we started with is not where we are now, because we've had to change so much. So this next question has to do with parents. So how have you connected with and kept parents involved in the virtual learning process? And if you're a parent of a student who is virtual for any period of time, how did that go for you as a parent as well?
Well, I just think that constant communication is so important. And we have a team of teachers and administrators in the Wallonia School District. Everyone from our assistant superintendent all the way down to the transportation director. Everyone's involved in contacting parents and contacting students and making sure we're making that connection. And something's come out of this, though. All of this communication, we've developed sort of a unique partnership that we've not had in the past. One of my elementary teachers actually said, I almost feel like the parents are our co-teachers now. And so we've had some things develop from that. For example, we're starting a online series of meetings for our parents. Our first one was how to teach reading at home. Because a lot of our parents, they said, what is science of reading? We hear you guys talking about that. We want to help our kids at home. Can you help us to learn more about that? So that was our first night. We hope to continue that, but I just think all of this communication has developed this great partnership, and it's unique, and I think it's a wonderful opportunity as educators for us to take advantage of that.
I love that. And Debbie, would you be willing to share maybe what you're using to teach the parents?
Absolutely. We are working with Arch Ford, with one of the co-op specialists. Her name is Mandy Nash. She created that. We had about 10 parents show up, which was good for our first one. We've already got some ideas about advertising for our next one. And we're just going to, as we get around, we're going to work with what the parents need. We're going to keep that communication going and just have that series throughout the rest of the year.
Love that idea, to get them more involved. What do you guys think?
We check in with our families once a week for those students that are virtual. And that may be the classroom teacher, that may be the counselor, because we want to make sure that the needs of the whole child are being met, not just academic needs with that. But one of the biggest things that happened that was so successful is really just asking for feedback. We talk about communication and we say we want feedback, but really seeking that out and using that. So we had 2 remote learning days that we used as practice days for remote learners and virtual learning. And right after that, we sent out a survey to our parents and said, what went well? What helped you at home? What were good things that we need to continue? And what feedback do you have for us? We think as educators everything's going to be understood and accepted, but sometimes it's not. And so one of the pieces of feedback, well, I guess a couple of pieces of feedback, our kindergarten families said it would be so helpful if we had styluses with our iPads.
Yes.
Something that we didn't think about. And so we have styluses now that we are putting into place for that. Some feedback from another grade said it would be nice just to have a schedule of what would this look like, a suggested schedule for home.
Idea.
And so that will be something that we will implement with our next remote learning day. So I think feedback is great, and actually listening, not being scared of that feedback, because feedback can be scary, but to really listen to what they're saying. And I think that shows that partnership.
Yes.
When we're listening to them and applying their feedback, we're all in this together for the kids.
Well, hey, I love that, and I have a kindergartner, and I stayed home with them on our 2 remote days to watch them, and by 9 a.m., I was just over it, because I heard mom, 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 and I was like, you know, and my kindergartner needed a stylus, and I had just voted, because you should vote, and I used my stylus. Well, he did it, so he loved it, but then his hand would touch the screen, and he would get very frustrated, so there was a lot of learning curve with it, and I had a new appreciation for the teachers, and I work with them all the time, but being the parent trying to teach my child 3rd grade and kindergarten was very difficult, and turning work in, submitting work, the logistics of how to get the work to the teacher was what was tripping up our family the most, and we would get so frustrated we didn't want to continue with the learning. So then it was like recess or like hours, you know. So I love that you got feedback. That's such a smart idea. Deshay?
I would agree. Communication is key, and just being able to stay in contact with the parents, and something that I do, you're talking about like knowing how to turn in assignments. Every time that I create an assignment, or I'm putting something out for the students, I'm thinking about, okay, what would they have questions about? Let me go ahead and answer those questions in the directions. That way, if there is an issue with turning something in, or knowing how to download something, it'll be answered for them already. And if they don't know how to do it, then they can send me an email, and we'll get it figured out. We can do a Google Meet. I can ask them to share their screen with me, and I can walk them through the steps on how to complete it. So
that is great. My 3rd grader told me afterward that she thought we had a hard time because I just wasn't very good with computers. And I said, I gotta go. I just couldn't even look at her. So anyway, thank you, teachers. So the last question, and I might have a follow-up based on this, but what is your best tip? If you were going to talk to the educators out there, either the teachers, principals, curriculum, administrators, what's your best tip for teaching and serving virtual families?
Well, this was the very first year for Livonia Virtual Academy, and I will tell you, we're learning every day. We're learning something new. What has made our academy successful, I really feel like in our K-6 school, we have a dedicated teacher for virtual learning. They do not teach on-site students. They just focus on virtual students, and that has been a tremendous blessing that we have. They're able to make those connections, I think, and not have to worry about creating on-site lessons and all of that at the same time. Also, I think I've been working with a virtual academy and my assistant superintendent, and we're sort of doing some of those things that normally the principal would do. But what we found out that our principals on site, you probably can attest to this, they're busy doing other things. There are so many new, unique situations that they're dealing with. So having those dedicated teachers, K-6, also if you can have some central office staff or some other administrators step in and do some of the work, I think that's very crucial. And then the last thing I think, and I've already mentioned this, is that partnership with parents. Take advantage of it. Survey your parents. Get feedback from them. That's why we have a virtual lab. That's why we have a series dedicated to our parents at the elementary school, is because we're learning from them. And hopefully we're giving them something in return so that they can help their students be successful.
I think it's important just to jump in and try something. Don't be scared of it. Try it. We learn from mistakes, and I think that's been a hurdle we've had to overcome with my teachers. Is what if this doesn't work? But what if it does? And the ideas that can come from that. So I think it's to put that fear behind and just jump in and try new things.
I would say being flexible and also showing grace. I mean, because we're all living through the same time right now. And so I think that, students understand, and for the most part, parents understand if we are trying something new, it may not go how we want to the first time. And so they understand that, we're learning new things as well. But, being flexible to students' needs, their internet may be out, or, they maybe have something going on at home, to where they can't get to it right away. And I've had students that'll email me and, say things like, oh, there was an issue with Wi-Fi. That's okay. Things happen. And so, get it to me when you can. But I think just having that grace, and being flexible is very helpful to families and students.
Thank you. Is there anything else you guys want to add or say? Thank you for joining us for the third video in the Power to Survive Arkansas ASCD series. We hope you can use this video in a team meeting or individually. And if you would please leave us some comments about your thoughts on any of our questions, we would love to learn from you as well. Thank you.